Hi Sagittarius, this is Tisch Aitken, and this is your astrological report for the month of June 2022. We are done with eclipse season, which was so intense and really heavy, and there was a new moon in Gemini that occurred on May 30th and officially ended eclipse season. And the eclipses were in the Taurus Scorpio axis, and for you in the houses of endings and spirituality and dreams, as well as work and health and daily routine. And these eclipses were really heavy. The first eclipse was a partial solar eclipse in Taurus at 10 degrees and 28 minutes of Taurus. It's a new moon in its exaltation. The moon loves being in Taurus. But it was combined with Uranus, the planet of chaos and upheaval. I definitely heard about major new beginnings that came in out of the blue, and I also heard of major endings that also happened out of the blue. Eclipses can be shocking. They can bring revelations. They can bring things to light that you never have seen before or you had no idea about. Get back to where you once belonged. There's my buddy behind me. You didn't see him, but he's there. And I found out some news about him that I'm dealing with, and that's why he's back on the couch. He's feeling a little better. But eclipses can be tough, and to say the least. And the second eclipse was a total lunar eclipse in Scorpio, in your house of endings and the unconscious mind. Scorpio, the moon does not like being in Scorpio. It's in its position. It's heavy and painful, and it squared Saturn, the planet of restrictions and limitations, and that brought more endings and reality checks with that eclipse. Heavy, okay? So the good news is we're done with that energy. Mercury retrograded on May 10th at 4 degrees and 50 minutes of Gemini in your house of relationships and partnerships that could have brought miscommunication. Maybe you heard from somebody from the past. And then it re-entered Taurus on May 22nd, where it is still transiting in your house of work and health and daily routine, reassessing how you can get healthier in this challenging time, how you can get work done in a limiting time and challenging time. So, and how you can be more productive. So we start the month, Mercury is about to station direct, but Saturn, the planet of karma and responsibility and accountability, is about to station retrograde. And we feel that build up with Saturn 5 days before and 5 days after. And Saturn is about restrictions and working hard and about responsibility. So it can feel pressured. And Mercury represents your perspective. So all of us are going into the month feeling a little bit like the glass is half empty with Mercury squaring Saturn, but it really is about structuring your hard work and persevering. And the other big thing about the month of May is that Jupiter, which is the ruler of your sign, the grand benefic, entered the Cardinal Fire sign of Aries, where it will tour through October 28th. And that's a fellow fire sign, very compatible with your own, transiting in your house of romance and love and creativity and self-expression. It's also the house of joy and your heart's desire. So that brings a lot of good fortune and optimism, and Jupiter will return to the last degrees of Pisces from October 28th until December 20th in your house of real estate, home, and family. So if you're looking to sell your place, if you're looking to do renovations, or if you work from home, that's an excellent cycle for that. So it will come back at the end of the year briefly, but right now it's about having a little bit of fun. And Mars, which is the god of war, but also the planet of passion and action, also entered the Cardinal Fire sign of Aries on May 24th, where it will transit until July 5th. And it's transiting in your house of creativity and love. So this is a fun cycle. It's a new 2-year cycle of taking action, about being creative, and Jupiter is a new 12-year cycle about expanding your heart chakra and having a little bit of joy. So and there are a lot of planets transiting in both Aries and Taurus. So Jupiter, the luckiest planet, Mars, the planet of action, Chiron, the wounded healer, and I'm missing one, Eris, the goddess of discord, are all transiting in Aries in your house of self-expression and creativity and love. And Venus, which is the planet of love and money, is transiting in Taurus in your house of work and daily routine. Uranus, the great awakener, the planet of brilliance and innovation, bringing ingenuity to your work. The north node of karma, where you're meant to grow towards, being healthier, being more regimented in your routines. And Mercury, the planet of communication and learning, getting more organized in how you do your work. So we begin the month, and Mercury stations direct at 4 o'clock a.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 26 degrees and 5 minutes of the fixed Earth sign of Taurus. And that is in your house of health and routine and work. And Mercury is now direct, moving ahead, and that's good news for getting things organized. On the following day, Saturn, the planet of restrictions and limitations, stations retrograde at 25 degrees and 15 minutes of the fixed air sign of Aquarius. And again, we feel the buildup 5 days before and 5 days after. Mercury is setting off within just a degree where that total lunar eclipse occurred in your house of endings and spirituality and dreams, that heavy lunar eclipse, getting more information, because eclipses give us news and they make us want to see things so that we can evolve our consciousness and change. Eclipses want us to change. Mercury is now giving you more information as to how you can heal and process all of the information and all that you've experienced in the last 6 weeks. Saturn also is setting off the lunar eclipse exact degree within 3 minutes. How do you reframe and structure your thinking? Saturn's transiting in your house of learning and local community and marketing and sales. And if you're in your own business, how do you structure a new approach to marketing yourself and to connecting with others? Are you taking classes to up-level your skills in the new age of Aquarius? And so that's the deal, learning and moving ahead. And on June 6th, the sun forms a helpful aspect to Chiron, the wounded healer, at 4:44 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That is a healing aspect, and that's a positive one. And then on, let's see here, on June 10th, Mercury, the planet of communication, forms a very helpful aspect to Pluto, the planet of power and transformation. And this occurs at 5:21 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Good for finding empowerment in your thinking and good for feeling like you can get things done. It's excellent for doing research. On June 13th, Mercury changes signs and enters the mutable air sign of Gemini, where it will transit until July 5th in your house of relationships and partnering on many different levels, professionally, socially, romantically. And Mercury loves being in Gemini, a lot of positive communication because it rules that sign. On June 14th, there's a full moon that occurs in your sign at 7:52 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and it occurs at 23 degrees and 25 minutes of the mutable fire sign of Sagittarius in your house of self and immediate environment. If you've been working on something, it could bring fruition or completion on a project. There could be some relationship issues that conceivably erupt because it is a full moon. But the moon does love being in Sagittarius because Jupiter, rules your sign, and Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. So that is a positive aspect. So I think that it's not so heavy, but you will feel it. And again, hopefully it brings completion to things you've been working on. On June 16th, the sun forms a positive aspect to Saturn, a very stabilizing energy where you feel centered. The sun also squares Neptune in Pisces at 9:41 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, where you don't feel so centered. But the Saturn aspect helps to stabilize, and Neptune squaring the sun can be very creative and dreamy and good for doing, meditation, good for maybe hanging out at home and relaxing. But good aspect, I think, is the Sun-Saturn aspect. On June 20th, we have excellent energy. Mercury, the planet of information and perspective, makes a very good aspect to Jupiter, the luckiest planet, at 3:44 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Good for you, for socializing, for going on a date, for networking with business. Good for feeling optimistic. On June 21st, the solstice occurs. And that's when the sun is in its maximum declination above the celestial equator in the northern hemisphere, which marks the beginning of summer. And it's at its lowest declination in the southern hemisphere, which marks the beginning of winter. The sun stops and stands still for approximately 3 days. Sol means the sun in Latin, and sistere, to stop. You reflect and you stop and you evaluate what the season has in store for you ahead. And I cast the chart for the solstice, and I cast it for Washington, D.C., because I am in the northern hemisphere. And the ascendant is Gemini rising. Therefore, Mercury is the ruler of the chart. It's in its rulership in Gemini, in the house of dreams and spirituality. And there is a lot of emphasis in Aries. The moon is in Aries conjunct Jupiter, the luckiest planet, in the house of friends and groups and community. Finding courage to expand through your passion and love with community, finding your tribe and helping others in this very difficult time in the world. There is also a lot of emphasis in Taurus, Venus in its dignity, the planet of love and value, in the house of spirituality, where it is exalted, and conjunct the north node of karma, selfless love, giving love to others when they really need it in a very, very painful time. And Uranus, the planet of ingenuity and brilliance, also conjunct the north node of fate in the house of spirituality. How do we find innovative ways to heal the world? And we can. Love perseveres, and that's emphasized by the fact that Venus forms a beautiful aspect to Pluto, the planet of power, at 4:23 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on the day of the solstice. So this is great energy, and the sun is transiting in the sign of Cancer from June 21st until July 22nd in your house of healing and loss and debt and joint resources, bringing some light to that area of your chart so that you can address those issues in a less painful way, but in a way that you need to do so. Those eclipses also, Scorpio is a very psychological sign, dealing with loss and debt and healing wounds that we've been avoiding. So that's a theme. And then on June 22nd, Venus, the planet of love and money, enters the mutable air sign of Gemini at 8:34 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It's transiting in your house of partnerships and relationships. It will be there until July 17th. This is great for your love life, for existing relationships, adding more love and happiness, or if you're single, for meeting people, and you've got Jupiter expanding your options. So this is really nice energy. And on June 25th, Jupiter aspects the north node of karma. Pay attention to whom you meet and what comes into your life at that time. On June 27th, let's see, Mars forms a helpful aspect to to Saturn, the planet of structure and getting things accomplished. And this occurs at 6:29 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, getting things done. On June 28th, a lot is happening. That's the second planetary station of the month. Neptune, the planet of dreams and imagination, as well as illusion, stations retrograde at 3:54 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 25 degrees and 23 minutes of the mutable water sign of Pisces. And you feel that build up 5 days before and 5 days after. There can be a big fog that we all feel at that time, and it's happening in your house of home and family. And there might be some confusing situations. Sometimes there are floods, or it just could be a flood of emotions, very intuitive and psychic energy. Could be issues with family, but we're all feeling that energy. But it also is the day of a new moon, which brings in a powerful new energy of setting intentions. At 8:59 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the sun squares Jupiter in the sky, and that brings expansiveness, but that's also positive energy, and that brings hopefulness. There is a new moon that occurs at 10:52 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 7 degrees and 23 minutes of the cardinal water sign of Cancer. This occurs in your house of healing and money and empowerment. The new moon is always a time of setting new intentions and planting new seeds. Do the law of abundance. This could bring new financial opportunities. This could bring healing around loss and bring light around that area. And then an hour later, Venus and Jupiter, which are the two benefics, form a beautiful aspect at 11:52 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, showing the abundance and love within this new moon chart. I wish you a lot of luck, and thank you very much.